Hey, what's up, y'all? We're back with another action figure review. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the new Snail shell, Rosetta Blizzzard. I know her name is a little bit longer than that. I'll put the rest of it in the title. But yo, it's been a long time coming for this figure. I think it went up for pre-order back in 2021, and I was thinking, man, this figure's never going to come out, but it finally did. And honestly, I went and bought this figure because that horse hybrid stuff, it kind of interests me a little bit. So if you put anime with that, man, that's something I got to check out. She's a fun figure to have, and I'm not really sure why they came with the name Rosetta. I mean, that sounds like one of those old lunch ladies with the mold coming out their chin with the hair and Rosaline, And after the Sandhouse sisters, man, the bar was set kind of high, so I was anxious to see how what they put out next would turn out. And the question is, did it exceed my expectations? Well, yes and no. Just wanted to take a quick look at what it looks like when you have her horse half assembled to her. And honestly, I really like the way this looks. That whole techiness to the sculpt work. It looks very futuristic. Only ports in with this one peg though, so I kind of wish that was a little more intricate. And there's a hinge in it, so it kind of makes you a little bit uneasy, like it's going to fall out when you're picking her up and stuff. I wouldn't pick her up by her human body. Nothing particularly really pops out when I look at her face other than this one nick I got on her hair, so that's kind of annoying. I'm gonna have to see if I can fix that. But yeah, she looks like your typical anime girl. I do like that color they use for the eyes and the fact that they threw some color around the lips. That's nice. These Gundam pieces right here, there's no hinge. They don't remove or anything like that. It kind of breaks up her design, but when you're moving her head around, it kind of clashes with her arms in certain positions. I like this panel work for her back too, man. She looks really cool. Her hair, she's got these two ponytails that kind of get out of the way. It's a little ball peg on those. You get a little bit of range with that. I like the idea of these tentacles, these wiring pieces right here. It does come with a nice wire inside, but the port sometimes when you put them in, it doesn't hold its pose, so that's a little unfortunate. There's a lot of ball pegs around this figure holding pieces that can be removed. When you have them on, it will make it a little bit tricky when you're working articulation, but there's a lot of pieces that kind of shift and stuff like that. And I'd say they hold really well too. It's not popping off all the time, so that's nice. These parts at the boobs, I don't think there's any movement right there. Like I tried and then I stopped. Now, as much as I dig her design, there are a couple choices that has me perplexed. Like this piece right here. It doesn't hinge, it doesn't move. For what purpose does it really serve?
Hold the elevator, please. Ooh, thank you. Sorry.
As you can imagine, it will hinder certain points of her articulation, but it's not too bad. Got some more ball pegs at her hips, and then that purple right there actually has a darker shade of purple. It looks like it's airbrushed. That's gorgeous. I love it. And then she's got some shading on the tips of her hair, which my camera didn't pick up. But other than that, though, she doesn't really have a lot of paint detail. Then you can extend her legs at the thigh. I guess it's to give her more height when you have the horse assembled. I'm not really sure it was really necessary. You know what's cool about Snail Shell? Their ideas are like really fresh, like real original. They should put together an anime or something, man. It seems like there could be a story behind what they be putting together. So for her look, she's got a couple of design choices I would say were a little ambitious, I guess is the word I use, particularly at her groin. I think I would have settled for like a standard regular version of a pelvic area. And this is an expensive 112 figure. I'm a little bummed out that she doesn't have that much paint on it. So for her look, I'm gonna give her 8. For your articulation. So this lovely lady actually has some excellent points in some areas, and then some areas that are just not so good. But I would say her arms, they actually move really good. She crosses her arms nicely, but that head movement kind of stuns you when you realize it's not a lot of range there at all. She's got this double ball joint, it's really small. She's got no joint at the neck. Honestly, man, that's kind of like a slap in the face. It's like, hey, Snail Shield, how you feel, homie? That's how you feel. There is one figure in their catalog that really could have benefited from a neck joint. It would be this figure right here. She's got all the accommodating sculpt work and design. I mean, especially seeing as though she got these rotating shoulders that are all in the way. And then she's got this awkward, weird piece on her chin. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. Hey, that's a drool catcher, homie. Yeah, so her side to side attitude movement is going to be pretty limited. She can't hit a forward rotation. You might need some silicone shark oil for that ball hinge at the shoulders. You got your bicep rotation. What's cool about this armor piece is it's on a ball joint and it's on a separate piece. So you can move that independent of the bicep. I like that. Solid range at the elbows, pretty stiff, universal hinge at the wrist, no additional rotation at the forearm. There is 2 points at her torso. It's kind of a funky setup maneuvering it around. This purple piece right here, it's actually sculpted to where it curves out a little bit. In the instructions, it says you got to lift up that upper torso and lift it over that piece. I never noticed when I lift it up, but if you're meeting some resistance, that means you haven't pulled it up all the way. Because of the way she was designed, you're just not going to get a whole bunch of side to side using both of those joints, but you can maneuver that upper torso to kind of get it to an acceptable level of tilt. I usually remove that panel piece at her hips. This whole leg piece right here shifts. There is a little piece under it that kind of goes up and down. Personally, I just leave it disconnected. I find it easier to kind of move that. Once again, you do have the ball jointed panels at the hips. They do still get in the way. So this is the first time I've ever seen a setup like this. It's like two balls with a barbell or something. You can get all sorts of range with that. This figure's legs is very loose and her thigh swivel. She can barely hold her balance, like especially when I connect her with the horse. So that is a huge bummer. I'm hoping that's not a universal thing. So she's got these really stiff heels and they move separate of the front of her toes. So I mean, I think that's an okay idea. You can get some adjustment posing. And I was looking at her ankles trying to see if there was a way I could etch out just a little bit more range right there. And I noticed there's a sculpted piece right here that kind of works as a stopper. So I'm thinking maybe I can sand that down and perhaps get a little bit more range out of her. And I also noticed that there is another hinge too at her heels, so it essentially can adjust two ways, like the degree it's pointing and where it sits at. So that's pretty cool. It's really tight and it's got a stopper on that as well. This figure's pretty light. She reminds me of a model kit, but even my model kits have tighter tension at the joint. So for the price point, that's not really a good look. Her horse add-on accessory has similar tension, and I wish the connection to a person was a little more extensive. And every now and then when I move her around, that bum adapter piece likes to pop off. I'm gonna give her quality a 7.5. For articulation, she's got some really great points, and then she has some points that are just not so good, but she doesn't have a rotation at those ankles. That's a bummer. The armor piece that she has that moves around, it can be really cumbersome when you're trying to move her articulation and navigate through that. But generally speaking, when you have all that on, she can still access most of her range. Now, when you remove that shoulder armor, you notice just how elongated her torso design really is. It looks a little awkward. I could have saved that for the look category, but anyways, I'm gonna give her articulation an 8. For your accessories, so Blizzzard here comes with an array of different options. I'm gonna try to run through these fast. She does come with her essential hands, fist hands, grip hands, displayed out hands, tiny detail on the hands, and they're really small. And then she's got two other face plates. And what I like about these faces is all three expressions are different, but she still keeps this solemn look to her, though. I think that's kind of cool. No complaints with the faces. Taking a second look at the horse attachment accessory, which is pretty much the reason why I bought this figure. Luckily, it does have some decent range. You got a ball going into the leg with a hinge going into the body. It's a little bit tricky trying to get that leg all the way out without popping it off, but that's all you're going to need right there. Quick look at the undercarriage. These fins around her body do not shift, and neither does the armor at her thighs. I really like this purple they got for her. That is so awesome. Her knees are pretty decent. She goes in, goes out. And then it's got the same setup at his feet as the main body, though I think this version gets more range a little bit. I might be tripping. If there's a ball at the torso, you can get a side to side for rotation up and down. At the head, there's a hinge, and there's a standalone piece. This actually looks like something Aloy might run into from Horizon Zero Dawn. It's a little tricky trying to balance it on its own, though. Nice stiff wire at the tail. There's a rotation right there. It seems to be getting kind of loose, and you do get an alternate bum piece for when you don't want to have this piece on at all. At her forearm, you got a set of these detachable fins. It's got a slight hinge to it. The second set doesn't. You want to detach this to put on her weapon. I call this shield 1, and this is probably my favorite weapon for her to hold because it's simple, it's small, and it's easier to keep on her. There's no hinge gimmick on this one, but there is a hinge gimmick on the second set, which I have already attached to the Lancer. Got two different Lancers, and this shield piece is really tricky trying to get off. A portion in two spots, and it's like really stuck, but this is a nice looking assembly. I love it. All these panel pieces can extend out. You can rotate it. I'm not even sure how this is supposed to sit. Here's the second Lancer. She's got these adapter pieces that you put in. It's a nice, tight, secure fit. It sits on this tight ball. You can get minimal rotation right there. I mean, it's not the most secure assembly. She do get some nice detail at those Lancers, and she also gets the swap out part where these pincers are a little more closed in. You can swap it out to make these ones right here, which are more extended. No effect piece though. I think you get 5 of these tentacles with a wire in it to put in her back, and you get a nice stand with a logo at the base. That's pretty cool. You get a tool to rotate her eyes. That's right, she can do it. And you also get a baggie with some extra pieces. Grip hands don't hold the Lancers as well as I'd like them to, and it's really tricky trying to get both of those secure. You got to have her hands at that one angle. That's it. Then you get her wings accessory, and these look gorgeous. I love that transition from the blue and purple. That gradient is brittle, hard plastic, very crystally looking. Got some sculpt work down here for the adapters. That looks nice too. Got a little bit of shading. These pieces right here actually hinge. It's really stiff, so want to be careful with that. And of course, you get that rotation right there at that peg. You hinge in and out. And when you have it all assembled, it's really tricky trying to get that all the way in. I might need some hot water as I have not been able to do so. And once you have the tentacles pointed in too, it gets really busy back there. So for her accessory, she comes with a really good spread of options, but I think for that price point, she could have benefited from an energy effect. I think that would have took this figure over the top if they squeezed that in there, but she does have a decent spread, so I'm going to give her accessories a 9. We got Rosetta here standing at about 6 3/4. For your size comparisons, here we have her next to the Snail Shell Sandhouse sisters, Saori and Shikura. I think that's a pretty good height. I was expecting her to be tall, and I do have a double review out for these two. I'll put a link for that in the description below. Next, here we have it next to your Shiwan, Jushane, Nana Hashikawa, and your SH Figure Watts Hell's Paradise figure. And lastly, here we have it next to your 3-0 Iron Man, your Classified Series Snake Eyes, your 1000 Toys Nero, and your Kotobukiya Zero model kit. Quick side note, when you see the box, you're probably going to think the same thing I thought when I see it. This box is massive, but she does have some really cool details on the box. Final thoughts for the Snail Shell Rosetta Blizzzard. What can I say? I'm not going to go through everything I've already mentioned in the video. She does have some problems, but mostly I think she's solid and she looks really cool, but I think I would have enjoyed her much more if that price was cheaper. Snail Shell has 2 more horse hybrid figures I'm interested in, and after I get those, I think I'm going to kick back for a little bit. You can find on a sale, I say go for it, but I don't really see Snail Shell figures on sale that often, so you must decide. I'd say I'm mostly pretty happy with her. I'm going to take a Dremel, see if I can clear out some points of articulation. Final score, I'm going to give her an 8. Alright y'all, that's the video. I'll catch you on the next. Peace.